Well, fasten your seatbelts, people, because that intro is about as good as it gets. This is Zach with Attack Gaming, and today we're taking a look at Legends of Persia, a top-down action RPG developed by Sorina Game Studio and published by Plug-in Digital. You know, one of the things I struggle with most when working on one of these projects is whether or not to go into detail regarding my personal opinion of the game. After all, is it really fair to pass judgment on a game after playing only the first couple of hours? Slower paced games can take quite a few hours to introduce all of their mechanics, and only playing a couple of hours hardly makes one qualified to speak intelligently on gameplay-centric gripes. Is it not then better to spend time introducing the game, showing off footage and describing how it plays, leaving true criticism to those of us who are tasked with playing through the game to its entirety? No game truly personifies that internal struggle quite like Legends of Persia, the self-proclaimed highly ambitious action RPG adventure game. This gem is basically Diablo 3. This is Diablo 3 as designed by a tiny development team with a minuscule budget. You'll slay lots and lots of monsters, get loot, and level up. You've played this game a few times before. That's honestly the extent of the game. I have nothing else to say strictly regarding the mechanics or playability, aside from of course the part about a tiny development team and a minuscule budget. Even saying that, I feel like I'm merely stating a fact rather than outright criticizing the game. Maybe I'm subconsciously insinuating the game is bad. Subconsciously or consciously, I'm still criticizing the game. Maybe that makes my internal struggle pointless, as sometimes we just can't hide our distaste for a product, and whether we like it or not, our personal feelings color our thought process and how we phrase what we say. In that sense, criticism and opinion are unavoidable. Needless to say, my mind is blown right now, and the source of all my misery lies squarely with this game. As I mentioned earlier, Legends of Persia is your standard run-of-the-mill hack-and-slash RPG inspired by games like Diablo, Baldur's Gate, and Champions of Norath. The game does support a fairly impressive introduction, and in-game cutscenes stylized like graphic novels. The game's intro is even fully voiced. The problem is that some of these introductions get stuck and feel unfinished. In-game cutscenes are missing voice narration, and the subtitles frequently misspell words or produce sentence fragments. Many times the game has crashed outright at one of these scenes. This forces you to begin playing from a previous checkpoint, as there's no manual save mechanic in place. If you die or crash right before a checkpoint, you can have quite a bit of a trek back to your last location. You can play as one of 3 characters. Unfortunately, the game doesn't go into any detail whatsoever as to the difference between each character, and there's not even any information to be found on the game's website. Just pick whatever character looks the coolest and hope it fits your playstyle. Combat, at least for the character I chose, is relatively sluggish. I get that my character has a heavy sword or axe, but attacks just feel slow, clunky, and unresponsive. Level up and you're allowed to increase character stats and spend points on special abilities. This you might expect from an action RPG. Even adding skills to your hotbar is an exercise in frustration, as I spent literally 5 minutes trying to figure out how to place a skill on the second slot. As it turns out, you have to use the keyboard to select a slot, then click the mouse on the skill to place it in that slot. Something like that makes a lot of sense on a console, but it's a baffling design decision for a native PC title. You will run into boss fights along the way, but a lot of the early boss fights really don't look impressive at all and are mostly tank and spank. These are easily finished with a high enough supply of health potions. At least the game lets you go toe-to-toe with the Scorpion King, but sadly the Rock is nowhere to be found in this game. Also, if you're watching me run right through plenty of would-be loot drops, it's because I couldn't figure out how to pick them up. Picking up loot seemed to be random at best, as if clicking on the chest on the ground enough times finally registers with the game that you're attempting to loot an item. The items that you do manage to loot have no discernible effect on your character's appearance, at least beyond the various weapon types. I feel like this is a missed opportunity, and is one of the joys of playing games like this is watching your character grow, not only in terms of stats and abilities, but also appearance as well. Graphically, the game is passable at least. In the first half hour or so, I thought the graphics were terrible, but subsequent stages provide colorful scenery, even if the game as a whole looks about as rough as it plays. It goes for a cartoony aesthetic similar to World of Warcraft, but it just feels cheap and unfinished. For a game that's $19.99 and not even advertised as early access, it's hard to recommend Legends of Persia unless you're a die-hard action RPG fan and are positively starved for a Diablo clone. If you want to learn more about the game that nearly caused your host to have a quarter-life crisis mid-review, hit up the game's website at legendsofpersia.com or check it out on Steam. Just be warned that playing this game is a life-altering experience. You'll begin to question life choices that brought you to the point in time where you're sitting at home playing Legends of Persia. You will think that, well, maybe you should have gone to college and got that degree. Rather than playing Legends of Persia, you could be designing rocket ships or curing cancer. This game is precisely the motivation one needs to seek major changes in one's life. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more gaming news, first impressions, and giveaways.